The wind doesn't howl this time. It whispers, a dry, hot wind that carries dust, not snow, and with it, a sickness no one can name. It starts with the animals. First, the chickens, then the pigs, then Old Man Peterson's prize bull, found dead in the field, foam on its lips, eyes wide with terror. The town calls it the plague. Not scarlet fever, not consumption, but something older, wilder, more primal. A judgment, some say. A punishment. But Charles Ingalls knows better. He's seen this before. In stories, in pioneer journals. It's anthrax, a disease that lives in the soil, awakened by drought and heat, deadly to livestock, and, if the stories are true, to humans too. When the first human case appears, a farmer's son. Feverish, his skin blooming with black sores. Panic spreads faster than the disease itself. The town meeting is tense. Voices rise like sparks in dry grass. We must quarantine the sick. Shouts one man, burn the infected farms. Cries another, leave Walnut Grove while we still can. Pleads a mother, clutching her child. But Charles stands. Not loud, not angry, just steady. If we run, he says, we spread it. If we hide, we let fear rule us. But if we stand together, with care, with courage, with clean hands and clean water, we might just stop it. No one claps. But no one argues either, because in a world unraveling, Charles Ingalls is still the man they trust to hold the threads. But the real test comes not in the town square, but in the Ingalls cabin. Laura, ever curious, ever brave, has been helping at the sick farmer's house, bringing broth, changing cloths, holding the boy's hand as he shivers. She doesn't know she's been exposed until she wakes in the night, burning with fever. Caroline's heart stops. She checks Laura's skin. No sores. Not yet, but the fever is high. The cough is deep. And the look in Laura's eyes, that glassy, distant stare, is all too familiar. She's got it, Caroline whispers to Charles. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't weep. He simply says, then we fight. And so begins the longest week of their lives. The cabin becomes a fortress. Windows closed. Doors locked. Only Charles enters and exits, wearing a scarf over his nose, washing his hands in vinegar and lye until they crack and bleed. Caroline never leaves Laura's side. She cools her brow with cloths soaked in well water. She sings hymns under her breath, not for God's ears, but for Laura's soul. She reads the Pilgrim's Progress aloud, her voice steady even when her hands shake. Mary watches from the doorway, her heart breaking. She can't hear Laura's cries, but she sees the fear in Ma's eyes. She sees Pa's exhaustion. She sees the way the world has shrunk to one small bed, one fragile life, and she does the only thing she can. She prays, not with words, but with presence. She sits by the window, her hands folded, her eyes on the sky, as if her silence could become a shield. Outside, the town holds its breath. Some leave. Families pack wagons in the dead of night, heading for Mankato, for St. Paul, for anywhere but here. But others stay. Mr. Edwards brings firewood and leaves it at the fence, then stands guard for hours, rifle across his knees in case anyone tries to harm the Ingalls in their isolation. Harriet Olson, of all people, sends a basket of herbs. For the fever, her note says. Unsigned, and Dr. Baker rides through the heat every day. Not because he has a cure, he doesn't, but because someone must bear witness. Days blur into nights. Laura drifts in and out of consciousness. Sometimes she calls for Ma. Sometimes she murmurs about the prairie, about Pa's fiddle, about the crooked Christmas tree. Once she smiles and says, Mary, I can hear you. Mary, watching from the corner, signs back, I'm here. And in that moment, even the plague cannot touch them. Then, on the seventh day, the fever breaks. Not with a shout, not with a miracle, but with a sigh. Laura opens her eyes, clear, present, herself. You're back, Caroline whispers, tears finally falling. Laura nods. I never left. I was just tired. The recovery is slow. Weakness lingers. But life returns. And with it, a truth the town can no longer ignore. They survived not by running, but by staying. Not by fear, but by love. Now, Plague is more than a story about disease. It's a meditation on community in crisis. In 1870s America, anthrax was a real threat to pioneer farmers. Outbreaks could wipe out entire herds, and sometimes entire families. There were no antibiotics, no vaccines, only quarantine, hygiene, and hope. Michael Landon, who wrote this episode, didn't shy away from the terror. He showed the panic, the prejudice, the instinct to flee. But he also showed something rarer: the choice to stay and care, even when it costs you everything. Karen Grassle, as Caroline, embodies a truth every caregiver knows. Love isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to act anyway, and Melissa Gilbert, as Laura, reminds us that even the strongest spirits can be brought low, and that healing isn't a solo journey, but a chorus of hands holding you up. Today, this story echoes with urgent relevance. In a world still shaped by pandemics, misinformation, and the instinct to isolate, Plague whispers a countercultural truth. We are not saved by walls. We are saved by each other. So if this journey moved you, if you've ever stood in the gap for someone, or been held up when you couldn't stand alone, I'd be honored to hear your story. Drop a comment below. Who was your Mr. Edwards in your darkest hour? If this 59-minute storytelling of Plague touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to SG Top Celebrities, and hit the bell so you never miss another story that heals, teaches, and reminds us that even in the valley of the shadow, we are never truly alone. Thank you for walking this path of courage with the Ingalls family. As Ma would say, fear is a storm, but love is the house that stands through it. Until next time, be someone's shelter. The world needs more safe places.